Hello, hi. Here in this particular video, we are going to discuss about Dockerfile. What exactly the Dockerfile, and what is the Dockerfile structure, and what are the different commands in that, and how exactly it works with like by taking a real-time example I will show. Okay, so these are the things we are going to discuss in this particular video. So without further ado, let's enter into the video. First of all, what is a Dockerfile? Okay, so basically, Dockerfile is a text file that contains a step-by-step instructions to build a Docker image. Just think as a like recipe that tells Docker how to create a your application container. Okay, if you see the non-technical example, this is the one. Dockerfile is just like a recipe. Just it's like a recipe. It tells you what ingredients to use and what steps to follow to make the cake. A Dockerfile basically. Okay, so Dockerfile basically tells you Docker what base image you wanted to use, what steps to follow to build your application, and there are some use cases why to use a Docker file. Okay, it will basically maintain some consistency. Basically consistency in the sense, let's say if we see in different environments, you can run same in different environments, that might be in development, that might be in testing and production. That is consistency. And also it will maintain a automation. No manual setup is required each and every time. Docker builds everything automatically. That is the one point. And version control also it will be maintained. It will track the changes of your environment setup, and if it is there any changes, that will also maintained. Okay, and sharing also will become one of the like a crucial aspect why to use your Docker file. Let's say we can share this among the team to get identical development environment. Okay, so portability also is very much crucial and important in Docker case. Okay, uh, to run anywhere, wherever the Docker is installed, we can use this particular Docker file. Okay, so that is how it will work. Okay, and there is also one key point where Docker file creates a consistent reproducible environments for your application. Okay, so this is the one important thing. It will create some consistent and reproducible environments. With the help of same Docker file, you can create multiple containers. That is basically the meaning here. If you see here, a kind of understanding, basically a Docker file is a recipe, like non-technical analogy, Docker file. And here basically we are building that. That means it is a cooking process. Okay, that is basically Docker build. And Docker image, like whatever the finished dish is there, let's say cake, here this is a Docker image. Okay, with the help of Docker file, the Docker image will be built. Okay, and we can run that particular image, then the Docker container will be created. That is the like sequence. Okay, and moving to the next, we do have a, sorry, yeah, let me move this. Yeah, okay, here this is the Docker file structure. Okay, every Docker file uses this main structure to build the images. Okay, so this is the sequence also it will be followed. And you may think only these are the commands we need to learn like that. Okay, it's not like that. There are another commands also I will show. For just being a end-to-end example, I took this. Okay, so initially we are using from is basically base image, like what is the start point. So if you see the command, this is the like command here, node 18. This is a like simple image of like I think on Debian was the OS, if the OS is not specified. Okay, and Node.js will be pre-installed. That is the like meaning of that. Okay, so whenever you are working on like understanding anything, try to decode it, okay, and try to understand from scratch what exactly is that, why only 18, why the node, why the semicolon, okay, like that you will get more clarity on that, okay. And then once the base is set up, then we are going to the working directory. Basically in working directory, where to work inside the container, within the container we are specifying the path, okay. Your working environment is this, like that we are selling, okay, telling. So we are using keyword working directory here, keyword from, okay. And then next keyword was copy. Here basically it will copies the file and add the file from host to a container, okay. Here basically this host, that means your current directory, and the target path, that means in the container, this is your host, this particular first one, and this is your container, okay. So that is the one. And the next one was run. Basically it will executes the command. Let's say if you wanted to install some packages, install some build application, okay. So basically this command will executes that command, okay. Run will be the keyword, and npm install will be the command basically, okay. And here the expose is like open ports. Let's say which port you wanted to access that application, in which port, like that, okay. So expose was the keyword, and whatever the port name we are giving, that is the container port. So container will serve your application on port number 3000, okay. And the next command was cmd. Basically it is like a default command when runs what runs what containers what runs when container starts, okay. So if you start the container, basically this will run, okay. That means your application will start, okay. Your node.js application will start. That is the meaning of this, okay. And if you see the build process, so like you can understand as a non-technically also, okay, not only technically. Here we are just for foundation, okay, we are using from, okay, for just making a foundation purpose. And for setting up the workspace, you are setting a working directory, and then you are adding the ingredients, that means copying, okay. And you can use move also, okay. And run is basically to prepare and cook, okay, like process, okay. And cmd basically it will serve the dish. That is the like non-technical analogy of this. So remember one more thing, like these instructions will execute in order from top. That means here to this will works like this, okay. So it never work like this, okay. So this will follows a order, okay. So that is the one point you need to remember, and I will show like example also, don't worry. And moving to the next, here if you see like what exactly the base image and working directly, okay. Like whatever the commands we are seeing in the flow base, from working directory, copy, like that, all the commands we are going to see in a flow, okay. So if you see here, there is a from, okay, that means base image. So what base image, I mean, obviously you are building a image, what base image you are using, that might be Windows, Linux, or Ubuntu, CentOS, what is the flavor of that, okay. So basically it is going to choose a foundation, okay. So the from instruction specifies the base image, like choosing what type of house foundation you wanted to build on. So here is the like popular base images from Ubuntu 20.04, okay. This is the version, and this is the like distribution name, okay. And like Linux distribution name. And here this is a Debian distribution which is node 18. That means already node JS was installed in that image if you use this image. Likewise Python image also available. That means this is also a Debian image with Python version 3.9 is installed in that. Here the same like Debian, and the Nginx Alpine Alpine is basically a kind of very small image. Okay, so we have three things like Alpine, Slim, and Debian. Okay, if you use if you don't use any of this tag, then by defaultly it will consider a large image. If you use Slim, then it will consider a medium. Okay, so if you use Alpine, then it is a small, okay, tiny image. And like using of official images is, I mean, there are some key points you need to remember whenever you are working with these commands. Okay, so whenever you are working in this particular command, use the official images from Docker Hub for reusability and security purpose. There might be some security updates or patches. You need to consider that and use accordingly. Okay, and also use the Alpine images. That means smaller, lightweight versions. Example, Node. Alpine, Nexus Alpine, like that. Okay, for especially for production purpose to decrease the like storage and all. Okay, and coming to the second one, which is working directory, WORKDIR. We need to, it is basically set up your workspace. The working directory, work dir instruction sets the working directory inside the container, like choosing which room in your house to work in. Okay, the command is set the working directory. I mean, this is basically a comment. Okay, so whatever you are seeing here blue, that is the working directory. uh, Work dir and space slash app, that means you are specifying my working directory, like whatever the tasks I am doing further, like a copy, run, cmd, everything will be in slash app folder only within the container. That is the meaning of this. All subsequent commands run from the app, like here. Okay, so there is a structure for like file structure in Linux, Ubuntu, like different OS have a different file system. So uh, like that you can set up a multiple working directories in the same image also. Okay, so you can set up first this and then later you can set up this and you can use this. uh, and also the best practice was always use working directory to avoid running commands in random directories. This is one of the best practice using of working directory. And you can also use a multiple working directories in multiple times to change the directories, as I said earlier. Okay, and yeah, one moment. Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking for some other thing. Okay, here if you see the like understanding of this, um, here we are using a example purpose from Ubuntu, this Ubuntu Linux distribution base image we are using, where you wanted to build on Ubuntu foundation, like your entire application, like whatever the commands you are going to use, then you need to use Ubuntu only. Okay, and you are setting up working directory as app slash app. That means you will work in the slash app room. Okay, and then you are ready to build. Okay, and there are some more a few more commands before going to the run. Okay, so let's discuss that also. So the next command was copying the files and then running the command. So here in copy command, what exactly we are doing was we are adding your ingredients. Okay, so the copy instruction copies the file from your computer, that means from your host machine, into the container, like adding ingredients to your kitchen. If you see the command, it will be like copy will be the keyword, and whatever the I mean, this is also one of the best practice I will discuss later also. Like first of all, we need to copy the required dependencies only. Let's say here package.json was the required dependency to run the dependencies. Okay, so the dependencies will be managed in this. So we are copying this particular file into the this particular working directory within the container. So the entire directory you can copy in this way. Okay, that means dot will be used. Copy dot, that means in your current directory entire directory will be copied, and that will be pasted in the slash app folder within the container. Let's say if you wanted to copy with the rename, okay, so you can use this particular command, copy, and whatever the file in the current working directory, and what is the target directory, and what is the like target name you wanted to give, that is the command. Okay, so here the source will be the file or folder in your computer, and the destination, like which is the path inside your container. And as I said, this is the one of the tip where you wanted to like copy the dedicated file whatever you wanted to use in further command, and then we are again going to use a copy command. Okay, I will show that also. Okay, and then if you see the next command, you just copied the requirements file into your target app folder, and then you are running this particular command. This run basically it will executes the command. Okay, so the run instruction executes the command inside the container during the build time, like following cooking step in your recipe. So if you see here, install package, this is a command run and apt get update, and I mean this was the basically package it was installing. Okay, so you are installing curl, okay, as a package. Okay, and let's say if you wanted to install node.js dependencies, so you need to run this particular command, run npm install. So let's say if you wanted to build your application, run npm run build, this is the command. Okay, this is the like keyword you need to use. So here basically uh, in build time you run the command to execute when building the image, and it will create a layers. Each run creates a new layer in the image. And also I mean the key tip here was you need to combine the commands with and to reduce the layers. That is also one of the best practice how we have used it here. And that will basically reduces the layers within the uh, image. Okay, and yeah, if you see the non-technical analogy, like how exactly it was processing the copy ingredients, like we just are done with the two commands, which is foundation, that means the from, and setting up working directory. Later you are copying the ingredients into your working directory. Okay, and then we are running the command, it basically mixing all together. And like let's say if we have your instructions, okay, to follow in the recipe. Okay, so it is basically run command, and then your cake is will be ready. Okay, and there are one more command I will just run. And here one more tip was you need to copy the files first and then run the command that you that use those files to improve the Docker caching. Basically here Docker caching is basically reusability. Okay, so like wherever it is possible we need to maintain a Docker caching. Okay, so that is also one of the best practice to decrease the number of layers within the images. Okay, and moving to the next instruction we are going to see was we are going to expose the port. Okay, expose is basically we are going to open the door. If you see in the non-technical analogy, the expose instructions tells the Docker which ports your application uses, like putting a door number on your restaurant. So if you see the example, expose 80, expose was the keyword and 80 was the like port number. It basically expose your web server to port 80 in your Docker container. Okay, um, and expose node.js app port, expose 3000. Okay, so expose multiple ports. If you wanted to expose, you can expose like this, expose like first port and second port, like that, just giving space. Okay, and there is an important note here. You need to document like expose is documented. It doesn't actually publish ports. use docker run -p to publish the ports to the host. Okay, so what exactly this means was, whenever you use this particular command within the docker file, you need to document that within your docker file. Okay, and also one more thing, whenever you are running the application, okay, that means the docker image, then you need to explicitly specify your port. Okay, then only it will consider to run the port. Let's say if you specify 80 port in the docker image, that means a docker file, and whenever you are running that particular image, if you specify -p 80 and 81. Okay, that means in the container it will run on 81, and in the docker host it will be on 80. Okay, you can you can modify the ports by running the this particular thing. Okay, it is just for our reference. We can use this particular port like that. Okay, so some frameworks will use a default of ports, like if you see the Flask framework, it will uses 3000 port like that. Okay, so yeah, and the next command was cmd or entry point. Basically it will start serving. Okay, like starting of application, it is basically there is a small difference in between cmd and entry point, where cmd is a default command when container starts. Okay, it is like it runs a default command whatever you specified in the cmd, and entry point is basically it is a fixed command that always runs. Okay, so it is same. Okay, let's say whenever you are running your application in your docker file, docker run -p and port, you will give, right? So likewise, if you give some command, okay, so that will override the cmd. That is the basic difference. If you write the entry point, then if you write the entry point in the docker file, and while running the docker image, if you give another argument, then that won't be executed. By defaultly entry point will be executed. Okay, so that is a basic difference between this. And moving to the example, if you see here, a cmd can be overridden. So this is the just example command. Okay, so uh, and entry point always runs, like whatever the entry point we are using always runs. We can use the combinedly also. Okay, and here explained the same thing, like cmd can be overridden when running a container, and entry point cannot be overridden, it always executed. Okay, and the best practice was use the cmd for default behavior, to or not to change. Okay, and if you see here, like non-technical analogy, how the restaurant comparison analogy, whatever doing from starting of the video onwards. Okay, we are just exposing 3000 ports. So that means the restaurant door is like open, or the restaurant node number is 3000 like that. Okay, and basically the cmd will basically serve, it will start serving to the customer that particular recipe whatever they prepared. And here it is the restaurant option, like a customer can visit to door 3000. Okay, so this is the like option to choose it by the restaurant. Okay, so that is basically, that means the docker container, within the docker container the application is running in 3000 port. The same thing is serving in the docker host machine also. Okay, so yeah, that is the difference. And moving to the next, here this is a complete example how the docker file really looks like. Okay, so let me little zoom it. Yeah, it's okay. If you see here, there is a sample docker file where we are using official node.js image. Okay, this is the first command we are using, first argument we can say. This is the runtime base image we are using, and that too a small size, which is Alpine, and we are setting up the working directory within the container with the help of working directory command, and we are setting up user src and app folder. Okay, so then the third command was copy the package files first for better caching. Okay, so we are just copying whatever the required file, that means to just install the dependencies, and the next step was we are just installing like whatever the dependencies we just copied, and then we are copying the again source code. Okay, earlier only a dependency file is copied, here we are copying the source code. And then sixth step, once we have a dependencies installed and code is available, as a sixth step we are running that particular. Okay, what exactly we are running? If for better purpose we are creating a user group. Okay, that means we are creating a new group, and we are creating a new user also. Okay, so we can use under command also here, and as a seventh step we created a new user. This is one of the best practice we need to be followed. And then we are switching to the new user, whatever the user we have created, we are switching to that particular user. Why? Because whenever we are running a container, by default behavior of the container was, if you don't add a user, by defaultly it will uses a root user with maximum privileges. So that is the reason why we are adding a group and then user. And then as a ninth step we are exposing the port, which is in 3000. The container will serve the application in that 3000 port, and in the 10th step we are up and running the application. It is just like cmd command. Okay, and the right side you can see the same explanation of the line. Here some like presentation was not clearly mentioned. Why? Because whenever I am writing, this particularly maintains this particular command in first line, and then this particular command in second line, and then this particular command in third line. Likewise the line by line explanation was given here. Okay, and whatever I just explained, that is the same here. And coming to the final overview on this, some best practices, as I said, layer optimization, where image layers will be reduced. Copy the package.json file first, and then we can install the dependencies. This basically allows a docker to cache, that means reusability will be increased, and do the dependency installation layer. And then we are following some security best practice also, that means we are creating a non-root user, and then we are running our application with that particular root non-root user for securing our application. And we are optimizing the size also by using base image as alpine image, which is very small tiny image. So whenever we are in your production, it is a very considerable point, and it is a best practice need to be followed. And coming to the documentation, it is very much important. So whenever we are writing each and every step within a docker file, we need to make sure to document everything. Why? Because it should be like self-explanatory. Whenever someone looks on your docker file, they are able to find what exactly it was doing. Basically sometimes the developer can write the docker file, at the time also he need to maintain kind of comments to understand to the others. So that particular same docker file, maybe as a DevOps engineer you also work, maybe as a security team they also work. Okay, like different teams coordination will becomes very much feasibility. And there is some official resource I need to show here from Docker. As a Docker have multiple commands. This is basically not a Python or shell script, it is basically a DSA. Okay, domain specific L not DSL, it is DSL, domain specific language. Okay, there is no dedicated name, but we just use this particular script or this particular kind of language to understand to the Docker only. Okay, so that is the purpose of this particular. Okay, and if you see there are multiple commands, how we have seen some example commands. Likewise, we do have a multiple like add, arg, cmd, copy, entry point, env, expose, from, health check, label, maintainer. This maintainer is deprecated in the latest version. And the next one, on build, run, shell, stop, signal, user, volume, working directory. So these are the 18, excluding entry point it is 17. Sorry, maintainer it is 17. Why? Because it was deprecated in the latest version. So I will just show another example also from the official same documentation. This is also one of the example we just seen, right? So from then working directory we are copying, running the installation, and then copying the code, and then we are exposing, and then we are running add user, and then switching to the user, and then finally we are running the application. Okay, I think you got certain idea on this, like what exactly the Docker file has and how exactly it works. So yeah, that's it from my side in this particular video, and stay tuned for more videos in upcoming. Thank you.